Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. This is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Do you remember when, once upon a time, to be found guilty of something, they had to have this little thing called proof or evidence or witnesses or something that would at least show that you had actually done something? I mean, it's impossible to prove a negative, right? So I could say, I've flown to the moon. And if somebody says, prove it, and I turn around and say, prove that I didn't, well, you can't prove that I didn't. So how do you prove that you didn't do something? I have an interesting story, and one that really starts showing you the precedent and the way the court systems are going today, and why a lot of guys are just saying, I don't even want to be left alone with somebody. It's just too risky. Let's see. Van Palen, one of my viewers here, suggested instead of the R word, I use a struggle snuggle. But I'll just say R probably, but R. Albert Wilson sentenced to jail for a struggle snuggle, but he didn't fool around with the person. Albert Wilson was a student at the University of Kansas. He earned his associate's degree from community college before attending KU and had dreams of being a sports journalist. Those dreams were deferred after he was sentenced to more than 12 years for struggling. In September 2016, Wilson was at a bar where he met a young girl who was visiting a family member who attended KU. The two were underage in the club. Wilson was 20, and unbeknownst to him, she was 17. The two were seen kissing in the club. Wilson allegedly pulled up her skirt while in the act. The two leave to go to Wilson's place, and that's when the story turns. The woman claims that Wilson R'd her. Wilson denies the two had any fooling around, and an R kit found no fluid was found in her vagine. So, no proof, just her word against his. A month later, she contacted the police and Wilson was arrested on the charges. Through the trial, Wilson maintained his innocence, but was eventually found guilty. He was given 12 years and a lifetime of probation as a mandatory offender. Many celebrities such as Meek Mill and Kim Kardashian spoke out about the case. In light of the Ava DuVernay film, When They See Us, stories like Wilson's become more than what would seem fiction. A true tale of justice system not being for us. You can learn more at freealbertwilson.com. So if we follow that link, and now we can see that a young girl of white persuasion, and you can see Mr. Wilson here is not. He's 20, she's 17. I mean, this is going back to like the 50s here. Let me zoom in just a little bit here and see if they have anything more in addition to the story. Don't really. It looks like, though, they go through the account and a timeline here. So if you want to, I did not plan ahead and go down and read through this, but yeah, as you can see that he was nailed for this, and no proof. So I'll leave the link down below again if you want to check out the story. But the precedent that this sets up is that it doesn't matter if they find evidence or not. In some cases, just because she said, you're in trouble. And this is pretty frightening, because now at one point I used to say this happens a lot on college campuses because they can just go to the human resources and say this happened, and even if it didn't, they will still kick you out of college and you still owe your tuition and you're out of school. Well, now this guy's got 12 years with zero proof. Zero. No DNA, no witnesses, nothing. Just her word, his word. So now that he cannot prove his innocence, he's just assumed guilty. The main story I want to talk about here, and that sets up the precedent for you don't need to have any proof. Now, we all know HW here, and I have to be, really bad coding on this page here, so I'll have to Really bad coding. Okay. Sorry. This page has just got really bad web coding, so I can't resize it. HW here, Harvey. We know that he's the pretty much the whole origination of the also me movement, right? You know which one I'm talking about. Well, he was found guilty. But what's interesting is that, let me read the story and then I'll get a little bit deeper into it. New York prosecutors are hailing HW's conviction as a pivotal moment that could change the way the legal system views a type of snuggle struggle case historically considered difficult to prove. Most of the women who testified him stayed in contact with him and sometimes had consensual arrangements with him after the alleged incidents. None promptly reported his behavior. There was little physical evidence to bolster their stories. And I want to kind of get down through here to the meat of it. They're saying here that this is a new day, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. said after the verdict was announced. R is R, whether the person reports it within an hour, within a year, or perhaps never. It's R, despite being complicated dynamics of power and consent after the action. It's R even if there is no physical evidence. But some women's advocates cautioned it's too soon to know how much the legal landscape has shifted. This is not a signal that our systems and institutions are magically transformed, the president of the National Organization for Women's New York chapter, who sat through most of the trial. This is one case, one man. We need to keep it in perspective. Except I just read another case. That's two cases. If any case seemed to encapsulate the also me, reckoning with misconduct and the dynamics, power form of coercion, it was HW's. So basically, I'll boil down what I and I'll put these links again below. As you know, I have to be very cryptic about it, but I'll try to read a little bit and then I'll talk about it, so at least you know what the heck I'm talking about. So HW here, number one, you knew he was going to be found guilty because he's the whole person behind the also me movement. So they had to find him, or otherwise it would throw all the wonderful work that they've done out the window. But the interesting thing is that the women that were making this claim against him, if you go and read the court documents, from what I can tell, sounds like he offered them, I will give you a role, I will give you some benefit if you offer me some fun. And the women gauged it and said, okay. And then he did his part and they did their part, and some of them got their roles, some of them got their promises fulfilled. Later on, as their moon was setting on their career and they weren't quite as popular anymore, they said, how can I maybe take advantage of this again? And that's when the allegations came forth. And some of them had relationships with him for a year or two after the time that they were claiming he had done something. So I'm not saying that this guy is a saint by any means. He's probably a creepy, weird guy. I'm not going to defend him because I find a lot of his actions are pretty gross. But this is the casting couch. We know it's existed. I mean, it's been a joke for 50 years in Hollywood. So it's not like it's something new, but being called out for it is. And the fact now that here are two cases, one of a very high-profile individual and another of a young man who was just hanging out in a pub with a young woman, and both had zero evidence. Now, his does have some evidence. I don't mean to say that, but being that, can you imagine having a girlfriend and dating her for a year or two, and after you break up, she's going to call you out on one night 2 years ago in the middle of your relationship or in the beginning of your relationship when you guys went out and had a couple of cold ones and maybe shot pool at a bar, and then went back to her place or your place or whatever, and she was a little too tipsy to kind of feel great about it, but nothing happened, and you continue to date 2 years, but you're going to be found guilty for that particular incident. That's what happened to HW. So This is just another instance that as more and more of these laws kind of come about, where it's believing her and what she says no matter what, lacking any evidence, lacking anything, or in some cases continuing on with a relationship for a couple years afterwards, and then coming back around and saying, hey, this happened to me, I want this brought up. And now he's looking at 25 years. This gives way too much power to an individual. This would be no different than you and I sitting at a pub, enjoying ourselves. We get in a discussion, we get in a bit of an argument, and we go our separate ways, and I say, oh, you're nuts, and you say, oh, you're nuts, man. And then 3 days later, the cops are knocking on your door because I said you hit me and I don't know, pulled out a blade or something or other and threatened me. And you're like, no, I did no such thing. Where's any proof? Oh, we don't need proof. Joker just said you did, so that's it for you. Can you imagine the power that gives an individual over somebody else? That's what we're looking at now. So if we see more and more of these cases coming out, this is something to be genuinely concerned about. And yes, you can say, well, that's only 2 people out of however many 100 million. Yes, it's a very, very, very small percentage. You're more likely to just about win the lottery. But this is something you need to keep your eyes out, because there's a little case over here happening, and a case over here, and a fake claim over here, and no time for making a fake claim over here, and all these little, how many grains of sand does it take to make a heap of sand, or to make a pile of sand? It's not 1, it's not 3, it's not 7. But at some point, it starts adding up to where you go, this is a whole lot of problem. And it's gaining, and you just have to look at all the little grains of sand. And I don't know, it feels like we're getting close to a heap of sand here. Maybe I'm off. I don't know. Maybe because I look at these stories all day, maybe I think that it's more of a heap of sand than you do. Some of you don't look at this stuff at all and maybe just watch a couple of videos. What are you guys' experience? I mean, is this something that you're seeing a little bit more in the real world? Is it something you're reading more in just casual everyday reading? Because I come across this stuff because I specifically look for it. What are your feelings on this? Is this becoming a heap of sand, or am I just a little off track here? I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'll leave it there. Guys, if you want to support my work, links are below. Thank you for those that have. I really, really appreciate it. My bus update video is on my second channel if you want to check out that. Links are below. And, of course, the best way you can support me, like, comment, share, and check your subscription, guys. I last night I went to bed. I woke up and I lost 400 subs. Now, sometimes, everybody goes, I didn't like that video, and maybe you might lose a couple. But losing 400 over the course of a night, something weird happens. So if you are subbed, make sure that you still are. And if you're not, come on by or jump on board and make sure to hit notify so you get all my new videos. Guys, I'll leave it there. This is Better Bachelor. I'm Joker, and I don't know. It seems like a whole lot of sand.